And so meeting ended, I ran over and said, I'm sorry. I immediately realized what I did, got excited, focused on the work, not the people, left you behind. And now you're seeing implications that I've just committed us to without your participation, without your invitation in any way. And I think that's a theme. If most of us think about the three levels of leadership between those we report to that we lead, those that report to us that we lead, and then our peers, the easiest party to end up missing from time to time is our peers.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff LaCosta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello, Nadia. Excited to be here on our very close to the 99th leader here with the incredible Sean Kingsbury. Hey, Sean, thanks for joining.
Hi, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's kind of incredible. This is our last episode before the last.
So there's a word for that, right? I think it's penultimate.
Yeah, but I can't pronounce that. I'm Italian, you know. I was on purpose trying to avoid pronouncing that. So thank you for finding the word. I think my husband this morning said, how do you say parallelepipedo in English? And I'm like, I can barely say it in Italian. So... Well, welcome to the show. And Sean was referred by one of our very first guests, our dear Bob. So Bob, if you're listening to this, thank you for recommending this incredible human. And Jeff, have you and Sean already had a few chit chat?
We have a little bit here, but Sean, I'm excited to chat more. I know you are involved in a very large leadership role that's a little bit different than maybe we think of typical, direct line reporting leadership as well. So I can't wait to dig in here. But how do you describe to people what you do?
Well, I like to say that I have two jobs. I have a role as a marketing executive at State Farm in which I have two areas of responsibility. One of those is providing a unified way to take our 19,000 plus storefronts with over 100,000 people in them and create a unified voice so that we can align them with what we do nationally and take advantage of having 96,000 creators. It's an unbelievable opportunity. And so we do that by having great marketing programs that they can use and then telling them how great the programs are so they feel invited to use them. And then on the other side of that, this is sort of my outgoing side of me. And then my other side, the heads down numbers side, this is where I have responsibility for MarTech, MarSci, and analytics. And so this is math and science. So I do those two things at State Farm. My other role that is, it is a way to fill my soul is that I serve as a pro bono advisor to the executive team at the National VFW. So the Veterans of Foreign Wars organization headquartered in Kansas City, similar model. They have 6,000 posts across the country. And so I help them connect their national brand to their posts and their almost 1 million members. And I've been doing that, wake up, for some time, wake up early Saturday mornings with two other people who are both amazing marketers, Chris Schaefer and Mason Brown. And we just work in the mornings before our families wake up and try to build something for them and then go on with our day. And we're really proud because we just launched the Still Serving campaign with the VFW. After a year of Saturdays, we put this thing in the market to show people that the VFW is making a huge impact and that when service members stop wearing the uniform, their service doesn't end.
Oh my God. I mean, number one, you have your hands full. And I know you're not mentioning many other things that you do, but we'll leave that for the middle of the podcast. But you said one word that really clicked with me, and this is not Marseille, because Jeff and I have spent too many days doing Marseille and
As much as that resonates, yes, yeah.
So we're going to archive that for today. But you used this word, you said inviting people in. And it's kind of incredible because you mentioned in like this huge scale, like millions of people that you speak with. And you didn't say like, oh, I'm pushing them information. I feel you deliberately used this word, like inviting them in, which is a word that really resonates with our 99 humans type of thinking about human leaders. And so can we double click a little bit on that concept? Like what does it mean for you inviting people in?
Yeah, I think I've been given a gift in that I started my leadership in the military. And while in the military, there's,
Which branch? My
I was in
brother's
the
in
Air
the Navy,
Force.
and he was like 2 episodes before you. We've done a couple military leaders as well, so it's interesting to see you now in the private sector.
So I served in the United States Air Force. My wife served in the U.S. Navy, and our son is currently in the Air Force. And so I'm winning here, and she's not.
Wow! Thank you all for your service. That's a huge sacrifice on your part. I hope you got some amazing experiences out of it.
Best time of my life. I've tried to replicate that part of my life so many times over. I think that's why I'm still, despite the fact that maybe some would say it's a little passé, I'm still going to CrossFit multiple times a week because I'm looking to suffer with a group of other people on a regular basis.
You're addicted to the pain there.
I think so.
Well, maybe we do an introduction with your brother one day, and I'm just going to crash it.
So I would love that. Going back to the question, after leaving that hierarchical leadership of the military, admittedly, I didn't find it to be a big stretch to lead in a different way. I operated in a part of the military where small units of people go and do stuff very independently and do independent thinking. And so you sort of know the destination and you're trusted to get to there. In the last now, what'll soon be 11 years, time flies, that I've been at State Farm, I've primarily been leading people through invitation. State Farm's independent contractors can choose to participate in the marketing programs that we put together or not. And so I'm going to go PG-13 for a second, but a mentor of mine said to me once, you can light a fire under somebody's ass and they're going to jump. But if you light a fire in their heart, they're going to run with you for a long time. And I just think about that and the power of the invitation and leaving agency and decision making with the person that you're inviting. It changes the dynamic quite a bit so that you have an obligation to produce products or work that are so good that people want to participate in them.
I'm sure that if you go back in time, you might recall an episode or a specific situation that this invitation either didn't go as you expected, or a situation where you were really trying with so many ways, yet it wasn't landing. So what do you find if you go back in one of those times?
Okay, that's a great question. So I'm going to pivot a little. I think you're asking me to go this way. I'm going to go this way. We'll get to the same place. Most people, when they hear this, just demonstrates how strange my brain is, I think. Most people hear that question and they think about their direct reports when they think about the people that they lead. And that's an easier space for most, I find, to consider how you invite them in and bring them along. And then the person that you work for, or in my case, the people that you work for, also easy to remember and not neglect them. The one that's, I think, easiest to sort of bungle is peers. And so a space where I, not too long ago, forgot to invite one of my peers was it was a good example of intent versus impact. I had very positive intent and I screwed up the situation and had a negative impact. And so generally, the team and I were very deeply focused on some very analytical work. Just in my way, I'm just nerding out on the science and building some new models and thinking about ways that we can find an efficient way to move our business forward with how we think about what tactics we use in what ways through our broader offering of marketing. And so then in my excitement, in my connect with our C-suite, I came in and brought this idea and sort of said, we've done this work. We're so proud of it. These great outcomes, and the team did such a good job. And I look over and one of my peers is trying to, keep her jaw up because she's flabbergasted in that she has no idea what I'm talking about. And so what I did is I aligned my team around a mission. They went off and did some superb work in order to deliver something. I built excitement amongst those that I report up to, and they were excited about it. And I didn't invite my peer into the process at all. Complete miss. And so then this is a person that we work in person. I happen to be in my home office setting, but we're together all the time, every week, hours. And I left him behind. And all of a sudden, I was very rapidly deflated when I realized, this is one of those things where we went fast, but it didn't matter because we left people behind. And so meeting ended, I ran over and said, I'm sorry. I immediately realized what I did, got excited, focused on the work, not the people, left you behind. And now you're seeing implications that I've just committed us to without your participation, without your invitation in any way. And I think that's a theme. If most of us think about the 3 levels of leadership between those we report to that we lead, those that report to us that we lead, and then our peers, the easiest party to end up missing from time to time is our peers.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for sharing that story because you're demonstrating amazing kind of human-centric leadership and being a bit vulnerable about a time that didn't, go great, didn't go maybe like you like it to go. And now at our penultimate podcast, where we're interviewing leaders about these human experiences, to be honest, some leaders still have a hard time, even primed as much as, coming on a show like this, admitting that it doesn't always go well. So that is absolutely to your benefit, but it makes me curious how you learned that being able to admit your mistakes, to share them willingly, to look at them and improve was actually going to be something that worked to your benefit, because it seems to be something that even those who are trying hard to be amazing leaders can struggle with sometimes, to actually be vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I messed up and that's going to make me better next time.
Well, thank you for saying that. Luckily, I screw stuff up all the time. And so I have plenty of stories to pull from. I think we all do. It's just about how we process it. If we don't have awareness that we made a mistake, then it's hard to learn from that. In the end, there are a couple core things that I believe. And I have this weird way of thinking about stuff where I'll see an opportunity and I'll build it into a 3-word mantra. And I'll repeat that maybe for 5 years if necessary until I have changed the way I think. One of those is done beats perfect. Of course, I didn't make it up. A lot of people know this when I hooked onto it. But, I was watching TikTok a few weeks ago and I saw this guy talking about business travel. And a lot of us do a lot of business travel. And he said, if you travel a lot and you never miss a flight, you're spending too much time in the airport. And I laughed about that and I thought, this is the same thing. And so if I want to build a culture in which we can go fast, especially at a Fortune 50, especially at a 100-plus-year-old Fortune 50, if you want to go fast, you have to create a culture where people can deliver pretty good work in which done beats perfect. And so the way I talk to my team about it is I address something that we're all familiar with, which is the grading system from school. Now, Nadia, tell me if the schools in Italy handled this differently, but I just say, I want C+. Please don't ever bring me B work or A work, and never bring me A+ work, please, because you've done too much before we cycled that work forward and iterated. And so it expands the time, meaning you're spending too much time in the airport if you're always doing A+ work and then iterating that forward. And so part of the way that I do that and part of the way that I stay rapidly connected to what's actually happening in the organization is demonstrating as publicly as I can that I screw stuff up and that I try to learn from it, and then just sharing that out so that others can do that. And the fun thing is, we try to find moments where when we get together as a broader team, on my team right now, on my direct team, I have about 200. And so we usually kind of split in half, half and half. And I'll look for opportunities to say, all right, who bungled something this week? And I use that word because it's kind of funny in a way, but I'll say, who bungled something? And then somebody will say, okay, I've got one. And we all kind of laugh about it, and no harm, no foul. We did it from a place of good intentions, but with negative impact. And then next thing you know, stuff starts to go faster. People start to bring you more innovation and ideas, and they start to drive work forward at a more rapid pace. And they feel more empowered to use their best thinking and highest level of capacity to get stuff done.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in literally this last 2 minutes. And I want to pause because all that you said is wonderful on paper. And I trust you, you do it that way. But we also all know that we are in a climate right now where people are afraid that if they screw things up, they might be laid off. There's constant performance evaluation. There's constant expectation settings. And I mean, I love what you said, don't bring me the A. And, you know, at Google, we have this lunch and iterate instead of waiting to be perfect, which could be similar. But let's face it, unless you have a leadership system around you that includes your ladder app and the way performance is evaluated and all of that, I think that what you pictured is really hard to do in practice. Like, I see people terrified about screwing up. I am probably also one of those that suffer from perfectionism. And I just think it's so hard. And what you shared about your peer that was surprised about what you had done, I do also wonder if from their part, they could have reacted in, I trusted Sean, you're doing the best for the organization, and I'm going to jump with you, whatever you're doing. I don't need to be briefed every step of the way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that you dropped. So which of these two you want to tackle?
You know, we can go either way, but I will say that there's something very unique about the organization where I am. At 10 years, I'm almost an infant there. To be in the role that I'm in and have not started there, typically people at State Farm have the opportunity to spend oftentimes the entirety of their career. And so because of the fact that I had, you know, over a decade doing other stuff first, it does make me a little bit of an outlier. But when you're in that kind of culture and you build relationships for that long and you can work with people for decades, I think that it provides a different meaning when somebody says that they've got your back, because they might have been demonstrating that they have your back for years. And so to the example with my peer, in the moment, I was just reading micro expressions with a person that I know really well, and they didn't contest me in the moment by any means. And we could work it out rapidly and resolve. But I realized I ran forward alone, which is not the right thing to do. And then in the case where I make mistakes or where the team makes mistakes, we try to look at it like we try to ask if it's a one-way door or a two-way door. And so much of the time we make a mistake, it was actually a two-way door. And when it comes to risk and making decisions as well, and deciding at what level execution happens and who owns decision-making rights, and trying to press that down all the time, when you come to two-way doors, the risk is actually not that high. And so there is a nuance to the way that you have to set expectations, though. You know, Jeff, Nadia, we're going to go try this thing. We feel pretty good about it. We can go fast. We don't know for sure if it's going to work, but we're going to try. And if you start from there, then I think it changes the tenor a bit when it doesn't land. But the problem isn't any of that. I find that the problem is actually the sunk cost effect, where a team does something and they were seeking perfection, to your point, and then what they build wasn't perfect in the end, but they'll defend it until the end of time to show everyone that they do actually achieve A+ work and that they do deliver perfection. And then they'll hold on to something and protect the sunk cost for too long rather than pivoting. Now, I imagine it's probably different between the insurance industry and the technology industry, but maybe that's everywhere.
Hearing you describe the culture that you work in, no doubt has everybody, me included, Nadia included, we all want to work, like that's amazing. That's the culture that I think everyone would strive for. How much of that already existed when you came in versus were you a part of shaping along this 11-year journey that you've had? And what were maybe some of those things that you did to nudge or tweak things a little bit closer to this? Maybe I'll call it nirvana state. At least on paper, it sounds really nice. Even though I know there are lots of mistakes happening along the way and frustrations, the beautiful thing about that kind of culture is that it can sustain that. In fact, it helps make it stronger, potentially even.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say my answer would be that what I've consistently tried to deliver on and consistently tried to execute are commonly known great ideas that nobody could get done. So if you think about what we do, there's a lot of stuff that we all know would be great and we should achieve in our business. We just haven't yet. And then we grow accustomed to the fact that it doesn't exist or it's impossible or we've never figured it out. And so just everyone knows, don't try to take that one on. It'll never happen. And so I've looked for opportunities to do that consistently over time. And then the way that you do it is actually pretty low creatively, I think. Somebody else has the idea. Somebody already did it before. It didn't work out the way they wanted it to or didn't pull through to execution. And then if you look for a list of those things and then just keep your fingers on the pulse of what's happening in the business, you have to seize a moment at the right time. An example would be when we go through this large technological shift that we're experiencing right now, in which AI is the word that you can't go a day without talking about AI, especially if you're hanging out with Nadia. We know that. And that's a good thing. But what that does is it creates opportunity to implement other iterative technology that just would have been impossible in the past. And so the idea remains right. And it actually is very obvious and common knowledge that this thing would be good. But now you have an opportunity to seize it where you wouldn't have in the past. And that's it. Kind of simple as that. And in doing so, you might have to try some projects that don't land and you repeat. We all have those. Anything that's a big accomplishment that you did, maybe somebody else tried 6 or 8 times before the season was right to get it done.
Well, and we're also in a season where failure is extremely celebrated. Kim Perrell just published her book, which is called, I believe, Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire, or things like that. And I believe that the American culture is way more prone to be okay with failing and mistakes. But I don't also, it seems that at State Farm, I don't know if it's psychological safety that you all have built. I mean, I don't really know how to define it or call it, but it does seem, like Jeff said, a bit of a nirvana where people can come and learn, and it's kind of expected that because they're going to stay there a long time, it's going to be that way. What made you like this, though? Because you're there 11 years, but I don't think Rome is built in a day, as you experienced this summer. Do you think was your, journey in the military? Was it the way you were brought up by your parents? What made you this great?
Well, I don't think of myself as great at all. I think of myself as pretty common. I just try to take a basic rational approach to the stuff that we do, and I try to treat people well. One of the things let me go back to first the failure thing. So I'll admit I was way too old to be doing this, but through my 20s and 30s, I raced motorcycles, like, MotoGP style.
Like around the track or
on the track, leather suits, kind of, drag your knees around the corners and stuff.
Wow.
I was never super good at it, but I just really loved it. But I raced in a championship series where you can get ready and build the bike and train and practice and get your setup right. And, you just get on the starting grid and there are 40 people there and you finish 20th. Well, then, did you fail? I don't know. Hard to tell yet. If you don't go to the second race of a 10 or 20 race series, you failed. Your narrative is, I gave it a shot. My average is 20th. Move on. Never do the sport again. It's not fun. But if on the next one you get 19th, are you winning? Or did you lose because you still got 19th out of 40 or whatever, 50 or whatever? The interesting thing about racing in a championship is that if you go to 20 and then a 19th, and then you magically pull out a 7th, and then a 5th, and then a couple more top 5s, you might win the championship. And so it's sort of about when you quit, right? And this is that tough balance between holding on to something forever because of the sunk cost, or knowing that, the failure line is still further ahead. You have to keep going to that point, and it's sometimes just we move on from stuff before it's done, is all. And so then how do I come to operate in this way? I think I've been enabled to through the leadership that I've had over the years. I have been fortunate to have some of the best leaders investing their time into me, developing me and pressing me. And there's two ways you can do it. One is focus on the stuff that you're not good at. Like, I'm not good at basketball. I was better at operating motorcycles. So if I spent the rest of my life trying to be mediocre at basketball, I could. It wouldn't be very fun. Or you can work on it where you address the things that could be behavior risks, and then also double down on the things where you're naturally good, because then you build this virtuous cycle of you enjoy this. And so then because it's fun, you get better at it. And when you get better at it, it's more fun. And then it kind of snowballs in a positive way from there. And so for me, when I was just a teenager coming from a family of leaders, I knew I wanted to lead. And this is like, I knew I wanted to be at a Fortune 500 company as an executive leader. I just knew that from what I'd experienced from watching the people in my family and the different things that they had done. I liked the appeal of the complexity, and I liked the ability to impact large parts of the economy and lots of people in positive ways. And so because of the fact that I kind of knew that early, I was able to start working on it early. So my leadership in the Air Force was intentional as a way for me to learn and improve in the things I've done since.
I find that to be extremely cool and quite rare, actually, that, growing up, you identified what you wanted to do, which was a huge series, a decades-long series of events to get you to actually doing that then. I'm curious, what was different about being an executive at a big company, seeing it as a child, dreaming really about, I want to get there someday, and then you do get there eventually. What's different than you thought it would be?
Well, first off, let me paint a picture that my full style motif for it was based off of the executives of the 1980s. And so we don't wear suits.
That's how you
or
came in
briefcases anymore. I had that in my mind, if we're being honest. So there's no more suits or briefcases.
Oh, no corner office, you mean?
None of that. None of that anymore.
No private jet.
Yeah, all that stuff has changed in a big way, probably for the better. We're much more efficient in how we work now. This is strange. This is something that I haven't figured out yet, and I'm still thinking about. A little story on this one. So about 7 years ago, I was in a leadership role at the company, like at a director level. And I had noticed something in the math that didn't add up with the way that we ran one part of our business. And so I asked around, like, who's in charge of this whole thing? And a VP that I thought was really, really cool that would do videos out to the field and that we recognized. And, everybody just sort of knew and respected this person because they managed so many of the programs. I got an appointment with them. And so this was in the suit and tie time. And so I got all ready, and then it's like, my assistant will meet you in the atrium, and then we'll bring you up. And then I walk in the office, and it's that there's two places to sit situation. Like you're at the principal's office one, where you're at the chair by their desk, or there's the like round table off to the side. And I just remember like, okay, I don't know. Do I just go there? Nobody told me where to sit. I don't know how to sit. I was very nervous, is my point. And that person was super cool and just said, "Hey, how are you? So good to see you. Let's sit over here. Let's chit chat. What's on your mind?" And I brought my revelation, and he said, "No, we know that, of course, already. We just wanted to know who had figured it out." And so fast forward to 3 years ago when I came to join Corporate State Farm. That's my office now.
Wow.
And that's what I do. And so the dissonance that I still
Full
have.
circle.
And so that it's really interesting because the thing that's different than what I anticipated, even just those few short years ago versus when I was earlier in my career, I had a hard time picturing sort of what happens at that level and above. They say, maybe like requisite organization or some other books would say you can only kind of understand what's happening 2 levels above you. And so the thing I didn't realize that I'm still trying to figure out is this space that I'm in, where to me, because of the fact that I spend so much of my time with people at my level and above that are notably more impactful players in our organization than what my level is, I see myself as like a medium level worker. And then others, I remind myself of the situation that I previously had where I was so excited to meet this person that I had seen on video. And I just don't know how to process that yet. I'm working on it. I always try to lead from kindness, but that has been something that I just still haven't put my finger on how to feel about or haven't figured out. It's very different than I thought it would be.
I have a lot to say on this. I don't know if I will tell you in private or public today, but I think that all of these 200 people that have you at the helm of this are so lucky. And this is also the reason why we do what we do with 99 Humans is about giving back, because you said it early. You said, I became what I became thanks to all of the people that took the time to invest in me. And you're doing the same with all of these others and so many more that you inspire every day. So I find what you just described as absolutely beautiful and fantastic. And thank God we have people like you. And also you said something that I want to debunk. You said you feel like everybody else. I don't think that that's the case. Jeff and I have met thousands of people in our career. We've selected 99. You are one of those. There's not as many people like that, Sean. Like, seriously, there's more leaders out there that are just oblivious and, a pain to be around with. And there's so much work to be done in the corporate space still to move from that 90s situation. So I think our job is just at the beginning of it. So can you create more Sean's?
I hope, to your point about giving back, that's what I'm working to do. In fact, my goal is just to make sure that the next generation is much better than me, because the world is going to be more complex and faster paced in the future than it is now. And we need people that can operate in that space. There will be a time when I become, obsolete in my retirement and I'm just busy sailing and doing whatever other fun activities and focusing on that craft rather than the things that I do now. And I will want to, have a lot of peace of mind knowing that the organizations that I've had the opportunity to be a part of will carry on strong because of the fact that there's always a new generation coming up that's capable to overcome the new challenges and seek new opportunities.
Well, I have no doubt that you're on the trail to leaving something better off than how you found it. We always end our podcast episodes asking the same question. And you've given us a lot of insight, tons of actionable tips. But when you reflect on the conversation we've just had, what piece of advice would you want to leave us with for other leaders who are out there striving to create and to operate within the environment, the culture, the high performance kind of world that you are in every day?
I referred a little bit to sort of my framework that I've used to rewire my brain. It's 33 words in the form of 11 three-word mantras. And I'll go to the first one because I talked about done beats perfect as one of them, but I'll go to the first one. I spent 5 years reshaping my brain with 3 simple words that have impacted how I feel, how I perceive the things that happen in the world around me, and hopefully the way that I make others feel. And that is curious before critical. I think if there's one thing that I can offer to people that would sort of maybe be on my epitaph, it would be those 3 words. I didn't make them up. I learned them from a mentor I had that just had such a wildly positive impact on me. And I spend a lot of time with my kids and the people that I lead and the people that I interact with, just repeating that, hoping that they'll pick it up as a mantra too, or maybe put it on a post-it note and stick it on their computer or something. When I think about being on the other side of the table for messy situations, I can be critical, and it's very easy and low skill to be critical. And then that critical response turns into frustration, anger, or any number of other things that primarily just cost me. No one else as much as me. But if I start with curiosity, then it gives me the opportunity to sort of pull away from the situation and become a little bit more of an observer of what happened and then my reaction to what happened, and puts me back behind the steering wheel of my emotions and my feelings and my reactions. And so, if nothing else, in our work, in the way that we lead people, and most importantly, in the way that we lead and influence our own feelings and emotions and reactions to the world happening around us, those are the 3 words I'd leave us with: curious before critical.
Okay, so I have a side gig for you that you need to start. I want to have all of this 11 and 33. So I hope you have somebody that can go on Canva and create all of those stickers.
Can you
'Cause
tell us real quick? Are they at the tip of your tongue where we can hear it all really quick?
It's kind of a lot, but okay, sure.
let's do it. This is great. And then
Okay.
you owe us a LinkedIn post with all of it.
Okay, fair. So I'm working on, I'll just maybe instead cover a couple of things, because I'm working on a lot of the stuff that I capture with the audience being my children, rather than others. I just think I want to give my 4 children gifts of the lessons that I've learned the hard way so they can learn them easier. So adding to that, this is one that I learned from my dad: do it now. You already heard about curious before critical and done beats perfect. This is just a 3-word version of a very, very common expression, which is comparison kills joy. Do hard things. This one's weird. I'll end with this one. I don't want to scoop all of them. But meaning over happiness. So a 2-second primer on that one would be a lot of my focus is on personal emotional control and, your own perception of life. So as an example, when raising a baby, it's actually not super fun a lot of the time, because you're exhausted and the baby's crying and you don't know why, and they just won't tell you. They just won't communicate yet. They can't. And so if you think, does raising a baby make you happy? Or if you think about going to the gym and it's hot and you're sweating and it's like your legs hurt, you don't want to keep going, it's actually not super fun. It doesn't really make you happy. And so people end up spending notable time seeking happiness, but it's rather ethereal. I think if right now I drank a Red Bull, I'd feel pretty happy for a while, right? But none of that aligns with what's meaningful. Raising my kids has been the most meaningful thing. And, going to the gym is meaningful, and drinking a Red Bull is not very meaningful, impactful overall. So there's oftentimes a confusing inversion of relationship between the two.
Just in case you were wondering, you have basically a year of newsletters that you can start sending for each of these 33. There's like a whole business model around it.
Yeah, I've been chipping away at it, and I'm really learning a lot myself through the process. It took me about 10 years to come up with them.
So good.
I love that. Thank you for sharing some.
And also, in case you were wondering, both Jeff and I have the passion for writing. So that's why all these ideas are coming up. You have all of this goodness and gold there. And personally, I want to know them all. I mean, I noted 5, and I'm like, now I'm curious.
We'll have to buy his book when it comes out, Nadia.
Yeah.
We will.
Well, Sean, thank you so much again for coming on. Where can people connect with you if they want to reach out?
I try to be pretty active in telling the stories of my business life and some elements of my personal life on my LinkedIn. That's a great place to connect. And I like to use it to make connections with people. It's fun for me to chat with strangers and turn strangers into friends on that platform. So that's probably the best place.
Well, you have 2 new friends today, so that worked.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a lot of fun to spend time with you too.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Until
Have
next
a great
time.
day. Bye.
Bye.